In the heart of a vast valley, encircled by jagged peaks, where rivers flowed like veins of silver, and the wind carried the scent of pine and wildflowers, there stood a solitary forge. It was no ordinary blacksmith's shop, but a place of whispers and legends, known throughout the land as the anvil of eternity. Here, under the watchful eye of time itself, toiled a man named Althar Ironshade. Althar was a craftsman of unparalleled skill, though none could say where he had come from. His face bore the marks of countless years spent before roaring flames, the lines etched deep into his skin like rivers carved into stone. His hands, calloused and strong, seemed to possess a life of their own, each movement deliberate and graceful, as though guided by an unseen force. Yet, it was his eyes that left the greatest impression, grey as storm clouds, filled with an intensity that could pierce the soul. He lived alone, his only companions the tools of his trade and the steady rhythm of his hammer against metal. The forge itself was ancient, its stones blackened with soot and its bellows wheezing like a tired beast. Yet, there was an undeniable power within its walls, as if the very earth beneath it held secrets untold. It was said that Althar's forge was older than the mountains themselves, a gift from the gods to one who could shape the fate of empires. Stories of Althar's creations were whispered in every corner of the kingdom. Blades that never dulled, shields that could withstand the mightiest blows, and ornaments so intricate they seemed woven from moonlight. Yet, for all his fame, Althar never sought wealth or glory. He worked in silence, his craft a sacred duty rather than a means to riches. Those who came to him did so with reverence, knowing that he would accept only requests he deemed worthy. One fateful day, a shadow fell over the valley. A rider clad in black armor arrived, bearing a scroll sealed with a sigil of fire. He dismounted his steed and approached the forge with measured steps, his presence like a storm cloud on the horizon. Althar, sensing the weight of the moment, emerged from his forge to meet the stranger. The scroll bore the royal crest, its message a summons from the king himself. War loomed on the borders, a threat unlike any the kingdom had faced before. The king demanded a weapon, not just any weapon, but one that could turn the tide of battle and ensure victory against an enemy steeped in dark magic. Althar read the parchment with a furrowed brow, the gravity of the task sinking into his bones. He knew this was no ordinary commission. It was a test of his very essence as a blacksmith. For 7 days and 7 nights, Althar prepared. He journeyed to the deepest mines to gather ore infused with starlight, wrestled with winds to capture the breath of a tempest, and scaled treacherous cliffs to retrieve shards of obsidian kissed by the first dawn. Each element he gathered was a piece of a puzzle, a fragment of a story that only he could complete. The world seemed to conspire with him, granting him what he needed as though it too understood the importance of his task. When he returned to the forge, he sealed its doors and lit the flames anew. The fire roared to life, brighter and hotter than ever before, casting shadows that danced like ancient spirits. Althar worked tirelessly, his hammer striking the anvil in a rhythm that echoed across the valley. Sparks flew like fireflies, illuminating his intense concentration. The air within the forge grew thick with the mingling of smoke and magic, a palpable energy that seemed to hum with life. The weapon took shape slowly, each strike of the hammer imbuing it with purpose. Althar poured his soul into his work, his mind consumed by visions of its destiny. The blade, for it was a sword he crafted, gleamed with an otherworldly light, its surface etched with runes that seemed to shift and shimmer. The hilt was wrapped in leather as black as midnight, while the pommel held a gem that glowed like a dying ember. It was a weapon of unparalleled beauty and power, a creation that seemed almost alive. When the final strike of the hammer rang out, the forge fell silent. Althar stood before his masterpiece, his chest heaving with exhaustion. He had given everything to this creation, and as he gazed upon it, he felt a pang of sorrow. This was no mere object, it was a part of him, a fragment of his very being. Yet he knew it was not his to keep. The rider returned on the 8th day, his black armor glinting in the morning light. Althar handed over the blade without a word, his expression stoic, yet tinged with melancholy. The rider accepted it with a nod, his gauntleted hand gripping the hilt tightly. As he rode away, the valley seemed to hold its breath, as though mourning the departure of something sacred. The sword was delivered to the king, who marveled at its craftsmanship. In the battles that followed, it proved to be as extraordinary as the legends foretold. The enemy's dark magic faltered before its edge, and their forces were driven back. Victory was achieved, and the kingdom celebrated, its people hailing Althar as a hero. But the blacksmith himself remained in his forge, far from the cheers and adulation. He returned to his quiet life, his days filled once more with the steady rhythm of his craft. Yet, something had changed. The fire in his forge burned a little brighter, and his hands moved with newfound purpose. He understood now that his work was more than a mere trade. It was a calling, a way to shape the world in subtle yet profound ways. Years passed, and the story of the blade became a legend, its name whispered in awe by generations to come. But in the valley, amidst the towering peaks and silver rivers, Althar Ironshade continued to work, his life a testament to the enduring power of creation. His forge remained a beacon, a place where the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary, and where the soul of a blacksmith burned as fiercely as the flames he tended. In the end, it was said that Althar never truly died. When his time came, he vanished like a shadow at dusk, leaving behind only his forge and the echoes of his hammer's song. And though the world changed, the anvil of eternity stood steadfast, a silent reminder of a man who shaped not just metal, but destiny itself.